While embedded with the U.S. Air Force in southern Afghanistan, freelance video journalist David Axe observed how the U.S. uses unmanned aerial vehicles, or drones.
There are two drone units, two American drone units in Afghanistan. Basically, one handles the north and one handles the south. And the south is the bigger and busier of the two. So you've got, the exact numbers are classified, but I don't know, I'd guess 100 Predator and Reaper drones. The Predators look like giant model airplanes, about the size of a small compact car. The Reapers look about the same, but they're about twice as big, and look more like, you know, honest-to-God fighter jets than they do model airplanes. And you can hang missiles and bombs on these things, and in their noses they carry a bunch of different sensors, cameras, radars, things like that. And these things can stay in the air a long time. The exact number depends on what you're carrying and where you're flying, but a day. It's not impossible for one of these to orbit for a whole day, just soaking up vast amounts of imagery and data, peering down, looking at, taking radar snapshots of terrain. The drones, you could think of them as manned aircraft, except that the man in the aircraft is actually sitting on the ground. He's still talking to the ground troops, talking to the forward air controllers. They actually use a chat program, looks like Instant Messenger, to do a lot of the communication with the guys receiving the support from the drones. And the drones are fairly precise as far as these things go. They don't carry large weapons. They don't fire a lot of them. So it's a, you know, it's a far cry from a B-1 bomber dropping a 2,000-pound bomb on a suspected Taliban position.
This is a MQ-1 Predator. It's about a quarter of the size of the Reaper. We've been flying these a long time. We've been flying these since Bosnia. Essentially, it's a very efficient for what it does, which is stay airborne for a long period of time. It's got a small engine in the back. It's a 4-cylinder turbocharged engine that runs good on 100 low-lead gas. The payload that it can carry is much smaller. Instead of carrying 4 missiles and 2 bombs, it can just carry 2 missiles. Typically, we don't even fly it with a full load of missiles because weight is fuel and fuel is time aloft. So we'd rather have the time in the sky, being able to look down, help clear the roads, help support the troops if they're out on a convoy, or, you know, perform some kind of strategic level mission looking for the big bad guys. The payload is a little smaller, so the picture isn't as nice as the Reapers, but at the same time it basically does the exact same mission.
The drone units in Afghanistan don't actually handle many attacks. Reason being, the drone operations are bifurcated. Most of the drone operators, the guys who actually steer them, they sit in these trailers and they steer the drones and they see what the drone sees. Most of those guys are in Las Vegas. They work at Air Force bases in Nevada. And the guys in Afghanistan just launch and recover the drones, and they also are responsible for drone operations in certain small areas, usually around the airbase. So what happens is, it's like a 24-hour operation. There are these Air Force guys and contractors who are constantly dragging drones out to the airstrip, launching them from their control trailers with a remote control, and then they sort of pass them off to the guys in Las Vegas. When the guys in Las Vegas, they will fly around for a day or so and return the drone to the guys return control to the guys in Kandahar. And then those guys get to keep the drone for like an hour. And so they'll fly around Kandahar and look for roadside bombs, or look for rockets, or look for just enemy activity.
They took a plane and they took the pilot out of the cockpit and they put a satellite dish, but the pilot is still always controlling the aircraft. So just because there's nobody in the plane, it's always looking for that human input, that control link saying, what am I doing? And we did that because, one, the missions can be so long, over a day sometimes, that, you know, a regular person couldn't just sit up there in the small cramped space. But two, it allows us to do the majority of the work back in the U.S. So there's no need to deploy, there's no need to have a big footprint here, and the crew, you can also shift out. I mean, sometimes I would work for 4 hours, and then maybe have a 2-hour break, and then another 4 hours, and then, you know, having that kind of flexibility allows you to do that.
They have video cameras, looks like a TV camera. And they also have a sort of high-fidelity radar that takes these snapshots, these really impressive snapshots of terrain. What you do is you take, in the morning, you take one snapshot. You come back in the evening and take another, and you compare them. And if you see differences, like if you see, like that corner looks like it's been disturbed, like somebody was chopping up the ground there, then you might have spotted a roadside bomb. So the Taliban will come in, and they bury it when you're not looking. But if you have those two snapshots, you compare them, they call it change detection. And you can spot where it's been buried. So that's a lot of what they do, is they revisit areas and take these radar snapshots, and then they send in the ground teams to dig those things up or disable them. So this is a Reaper. How is it different from the Predator?
They basically took the same design and they just scaled it up. So bigger wings, more powerful engine, and that big significant differences are we get to carry more. So instead of just carrying 2 missiles, we typically carry 4 missiles and 2 bombs, 2 500-pound GBU-12 bombs. And then the payload's actually different. We're standing in front of the payload right here. They were able to just put a larger, I mean, it's basically a telescope, so be able to put better optics because you can carry up more weight. So it's a much better sensor payload. And then because we could put a bigger engine on it, it can go higher, it can go faster. It's tough to get the Predator over about 100 miles an hour. If you need to respond to some kind of troops in contact on the ground, you can push the Reaper up over 200 knots and get there significantly faster.
Now you're also using the Reaper to spot roadside bombs, right?
Correct. The Reaper has a synthetic aperture radar. It's actually right up here under the nose. It's another sensor package that's on there, and it basically uses radio waves just like a regular radar would work, but you get a nice image of the ground. If we fly the same path over and over and over, we're certainly trying to help keep the roads clear and keep those IEDs from essentially impacting anyone.